Hi there, my name is Sean Humphreys, lead trainer with Take Charge of Change. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. Harnessing the power of visualization. You know, visualization, or the act of creating a compelling and vivid pictures in your mind, may be the most important and one of the most underutilized tools we can use in the accomplishment of our goals, objectives, or missions in life. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about some key strategies, key ideas that we can use to really harness the power of visualization. So when you think about visualization, it really is something that activates the creative powers of your subconscious mind. You know, that part of our mind that's always humming along behind the scenes, working 24/7 to help us achieve our goals or missions or objectives. But it's very important that we always realize that to harness the subconscious mind, we have to be intentional, and there's certain strategies we need to use to make sure that we're taking full advantage of it. Focuses your brain, visualization focuses your brain by activating the reticular activating system, or I'll refer to it as RAS, and we'll talk about that in more detail. Visualization magnetizes and attracts you to the people, the resources, the opportunities, the information that you may need to get to achieve your goals. You know, we've all had examples when we've purchased something or we're looking into something, and prior to that search, we really didn't see it around us. But, you know, think of the time, you know, maybe you bought a new car, it was a red car, it was a particular make or model. And after purchasing it, you're seeing that vehicle everywhere. Whereas prior to the purchase, you never really noticed it. So, you know, using visualization to harness the power of RAS really is that kind of thing. We start being attentive at a subconscious level to the things that we need to be aware of to achieve our goals or missions or objectives more efficiently over the long term. So let's talk a little bit about how the brain functions when it comes to visualization. You know, when you perform any task in real life, researchers have found that your brain uses the same processes we would use if you were only vividly visualizing the activity. In other words, your brain really sees no difference between visualizing something and actually doing it. And so it's interesting, researchers have also found that that applies to even learning new activities. Harvard researchers at Harvard University found that students who visualize in advance the performance of certain tasks were successful with nearly 100% accuracy on these tasks, whereas students who didn't visualize only achieved a 55% accuracy on the tasks that they had to accomplish. So visualization is a very powerful tool. Visualization simply makes the brain achieve more and be more efficient. And though none of us may have gotten specific training in our schooling or high school on visualization, it's certainly something that sports psychologists and peak performance experts have been using for a long time. Certainly beginning in the 1980s, it began to harness the power of visualization. You know, Jack Nicklaus, one of the most well-known successful golfers in history, used visualization. I think at an intuitive or just a natural level, he just used it. And I think golf kind of naturally draws us to the notion of visualization and seeing perfect shots. He was a legendary golfer with more than 100 tournament victories and almost 6 million in winnings, which is phenomenal for the time that he played. He once said, "I never hit a shot, not even in practice, without having a very sharp, in-focus picture of it in my head. It's like a color movie. First I see where I want to finish. I want to finish it nice. I want that ball, nice white ball sitting high on the bright green grass. And then the scene quickly changes, and I see the ball going there. Its path, its trajectory, its shape, even the behavior of the ball when it lands. And then there's just sort of a fade-out process. And the next scene shows me making the kind of swing that will turn the previous images into reality." So he powerfully used visualization to help him with his golfing. And it talks about the importance of what we call intentional practicing. So not just when he was thinking about the game, when he's practicing, he would use visualization powerfully to improve his ability. Now, it's very important that we understand that the brain wants to engage in what's called conflict resolution. When you visualize your goals as already complete, so that in reality they may not have been accomplished, but when you visualize them, when you visualize them as complete and do this each and every day, it creates a conflict in your subconscious mind that you're visualizing something that you really don't currently have. And your subconscious mind tries to resolve the conflict by turning your current reality into the new, more exciting reality that you're trying to achieve. So how does visualization work? Well, first of all, it programs your brain's RAWs, we talked about that, to start letting into your awareness anything that will help you achieve your goals. So it's a much more intentional process than sort of, wishing things will happen. You're really intentionally visualizing the specific things you want to see happen. To activate your subconscious mind to create solutions to achieve your goals, visualization is the catalyst for that. It really is the activation part to tap into your subconscious mind. And it certainly increases and creates new levels of motivation. And it's almost at a subconscious level again. And as you'll be going about your work, it seems like a kind of a normal work week. But when you reflect back on the week, after you've been visualizing your goals and missions, you're going to find that you were more attentive, you were more focused, you had more energy. It's a very subtle thing, but if you actually are attentive to this, you'll find that there is new levels of motivation in the accomplishment of your goals and objectives. Now, when you activate RAWs, what we always have to keep in mind that there's literally millions and millions of bits of information that are coming at us in all kinds of forms. And so at any one time, as all that information flows to you, it's streaming to your brain, and most of what it comes to you ignore. You'd be overwhelmed if you paid attention to all the information. And so what RAWs does is it helps you focus in on the most relevant information based on what your priorities are. Filters it and lets into your awareness only those signals, only that information that can help you survive as one thing, or to achieve your most important goals or aspirations. So think of it like, this is very rudimentary metaphor, but you've got a funnel, and you've got auditory information, you've got visual information, you've got internal thoughts and experiences, and it's all coming at you. It's a tremendous amount of information, but what RAWs does is helps to sort through all this information and narrows it down to the most important inputs to help you achieve your goals and objectives. And that's the real power of visualization. You start with visualization, you harness the RAWs through that, and then RAWs helps you to organize all that information that's coming at you on a regular basis. And what your expectation is going to be is that you will see information, talk to people. It seems like serendipity, but it's really something that you are directing through this process of harnessing RAWs. And all of a sudden you're aware, you become conscious of this important information that you need to achieve your goals. Now, when we talk about how RAWs works, the other aspect we need to take into account is sort of the different pieces of making this dynamic and compelling. So how does your RAWs know what to filter out? It really lets anything that will help you achieve your goals, like I said, and it also is anything that matches your beliefs and images about yourself and others in the world. So RAWs will let in things that are consistent with your worldview and your belief system, as an example. It's a powerful tool, and to the extent that you're specific and very colorful in your thinking about it and compelling, you can achieve your goals. When you give your brain specific, colorful, and vividly compelling pictures, it'll seek out and capture all the information necessary to bring that picture into reality for you. Now, if you give your mind a $10,000 problem, it'll come up with a $10,000 solution. If you give it a $1 million problem, it'll come up with a $1 million solution. If you give it pictures of a beautiful home or a loving spouse or an exciting career, or even particular kinds of vacations, it will go to work to help you to achieve those objectives. So it also works in the reverse. In other words, if you're constantly feeding it negative and fearful and anxious pictures, it'll work to achieve those things as well. So, that self-fulfilling prophecy is real in many circumstances. You really get what you think about. And so by harnessing RAWs, you have a better chance or probability of moving closer in the direction of those goals, aspirations, and missions that are important to you. So think specific, very specific. Think colorful with images, and really make that image alive and make it compelling. Fill it full of emotion so that you get really excited about that particular goal or aspiration. Okay, so what's the process? How do we harness the power of RAWs and the power of visualization? So I'm going to walk you through a few pointers. So first of all, I want to make sure the images are bright and clear. So when we think about the process of visualization, is quite simple. All you have to do is close your eyes and see your goals as already complete. Okay, so I used the example previously. If one of your objectives is to own a nice home in a specific location, then close your eyes and see yourself walking through the exact house and the rooms and what they look like and the interior and the landscaping, what's in the rooms, what's their design. So make the images clear and bright as possible. And this goes for any goal you make, whether it's in the area of work or play, family, personal finances, relationships, could be charity work. And write down each of the goals and objectives and review them, affirm them, and then visualize them every single day. And again, use that image bright and clear. So write them down, review them, visualize them on a daily basis. Add images and sounds. Each morning when you wake up and each night before you go to bed, I think the challenge is this: read the list of goals out loud that you have. Reflect on each one of them. Close your eyes and recreate the visual image of that completed goal in your mind. And continue through the list until you have visualized each goal as complete and fulfilled. The whole process probably will only take about 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how many goals you have. And if you meditate, if you pray, do your visualization right there at that time. And prayer takes you into a very deep state that really heightens the impact and the effectiveness of visualization. And so those are some of the key points that you want to keep in mind when you begin to try to harness the power of visualization. I talked about fueling the images with emotion. Researchers know that when accompanied by intense emotions, an image or a scene can stay locked in your memory almost, forever. I think a lot of us remember, where we were, what we were doing when the Twin Towers, September 11th, 2001, were hit. Some of you may remember what you were doing when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So they're very powerful things that happen in our lives, and it sears those memories into our subconscious and into our minds. And you want to take that same example and use that to make these goals, these things you're visualizing, very powerful. These intense emotions actually these intense emotions are very powerful, and they actually lead to additional growth of dendrites, which attach to brain neurons, which ultimately create more neural connections in your brain, and it helps you really in the process of becoming more effective in achieving those goals and objectives. Now, what if you don't actually see anything when you visualize? And that's actually not uncommon. Some people are what psychologists refer to as eidetic visualizers, and when they close their eyes, they actually see everything in bright, clear, three-dimensional images. Most of us, however, are non-eidetic visualizers, and this is perfectly okay. It really works just as well. Do your visualization exercise. Imagine your goals as already complete twice a day, every day, and you will still get the same benefits as those people who claim to actually see almost printed pictures of what they're visualizing. Now, if you have trouble seeing your goals, use pictures or images or symbols that you collect to keep your conscious and subconscious mind focused on those goals. That's always helpful, so that every day when you review the goals, you've got that. It was interesting when NASA was working feverishly on putting the first man on the moon. They had a huge picture of the moon covering the entire wall from floor to ceiling of the construction area in which they worked, and everyone was very clear on the goal that they were trying to accomplish. And as a result, they were 2 years ahead of schedule. It's interesting. Researchers have found that the power of visualization is such that 1 hour of visualization in the visualized world has the multiplier or the same effect of working in the real world for 6 hours to 7 hours. It's extremely powerful. If in fact what psychologists are saying is true, this is not a waste of time. In fact, this is one of probably the best uses of your time that you can utilize, is spending some dedicated time visualizing your goals, and it has this powerful multiplier effect that it can help you achieve those objectives. The last thing I'll leave you with is really the hour of power. And this notion is, I think, very powerful in the sense that the first hour of every day, and you get up and maybe have your cup of coffee and you kind of get ready for your day, is you want to seize that first hour. And here's the concept of the hour of power. First 20 minutes, you want to engage in visualization and prayer reflection. So again, get into that mode of thinking about your goals, visualizing your goals, reflecting on them. The next 20 minutes, what you want to do is get some exercise in. And so get your body, your blood flow going and circulation, and it's just obviously just good for your health to engage in exercise. And the next 20 minutes, you want to engage in some inspirational reading and journaling. Very powerful sort of three-piece step. 20 minutes of visualization or prayer, 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of inspirational reading. What an incredible way of starting your day, so you're supercharged as you accomplish your goals and objectives. You know, the world is full of inertia. Things are sort of fight against us from achieving our goals and objectives. And so if you can stay with this discipline, every day you start your day, it energizes you and provides you additional power so that over time you'll successfully fight through the inertia and the roadblocks that will come your way as you try to achieve the important missions and goals in your life. Well, thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. For more information, I encourage you to visit our website at www.takechargeofchange.com. You can poke around there. There's content there. And if you'd like to talk specifically about programs or how we can customize a program for your organization, don't hesitate to email us or give us a phone call. Have a great day.